Hi, I'm Independent State Representative Martin Grohman. Welcome to Legislative Lowdown. Today we're going to take on the question of healthcare enrollments with my guest, Seth Fenn from Boston Partners.
Yes.
Hey, Seth.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me here.
Tell me a little bit about your business, Seth, and how you got started with financial planning, and then let's build on that and why you've started offering healthcare enrollment services too.
Sure. I'm a vice president with Boston Partners Financial Group. It's the largest or second largest in John Hancock. I help people with their finances, pretty much everything, from allocation of investments, insurance, health insurance, to the whole nine. But I got this job offer a few years ago. I'm very lucky to have it. The reason why I'm doing it is that I've seen a lot of people go through some difficult times financially, and myself included, especially after 2008. And
so what happened in 2008?
Well, before 2008, and I was 29. I was very lucky. I didn't realize it at the time. I had my father and I had a cell phone store. It was the number one indirect AT&T store in the state. And then we had I had a restaurant that I bought and doubled the sales. We almost grossed $2 million between both of them at 30 employees. My then fiance was finishing med school, and so we had everything wrapped up. Everything looked great. And then 2008 happened, and the banks froze our lines of credit, and all of a sudden, within 12 or 14 months, everything was gone. It was almost surreal. You wake up like it was a dream. I remember vividly waking up.
Bad dream.
Yeah, a very bad dream. And it was terrible. It was stressful, and and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest, because it changes you. You see things differently. What's important, what's not, and during that, I got a call from Edward Jones. And I don't know how they got my contact info, or maybe it was LinkedIn, and they said, "Well, consider finances." And then I got my mind moving. So after that, in the last few years, I've been very lucky. I worked very hard, and I got the opportunity to be a partner in this firm. And it's a little different. I'm not a typical financial planner where you're trying to just allocate investments in a 401k. I really, and not to sound tacky, but want to make a difference with people, and so they avoid something that I went through, or can make a better standard of living for them. That's kind of like my goal, and how I got here. Yeah.
And you started doing now, and by the way, we're both at Think Tank down in the Pepperell Mill, which is how I got to know you, and we both have office space there, which is pretty cool.
It is cool.
But I have seen you over the last couple of weeks doing these healthcare enrollments, and it's just amazing. The people you're helping and the kind of issues you're taking on. So tell me about getting started, why you made that decision to start doing healthcare open enrollments, and what that's been like.
Maine's an older state demographically wise, and so I have a lot of older clients. And so last year I got a call from a client, and they have some medical bills, and of course it's embarrassing. They don't want to talk about it. Finance is tough. It's icky. It's not an easy thing to discuss. And then they called me, and they had almost $100,000 in credit card debt and medical bills. So I didn't have to, but I helped them through the process to get their finances in order, and to get through that. And then I got another call from somebody else, and I just started thinking at that point. And then I had a third, and this was the kicker, was a client that the husband took his own life to stop, so he wouldn't burden his wife with medical bills and waste all their retirement resources with something like that. So that third one was a big one, and then I had some stuff with my family. I had a family member that had 2 surgeries that were not major but not minor, and they were in the hospital 2 days apiece, and they got a $212,000 bill. Granted, most of it was picked up by Medicare, but it was still $212,000 regardless for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I thought, well, let me make a call. I got to call my other clients to see what they have for coverage, and do a little research here and make sure everybody has the right coverage and or what's going on. And I did. I called. Majority of the clients got back to me, and at least 30+% didn't have the right type of coverage. And a lot of them, over 65, there was a $49 plan was the difference. That's it. Mm-hmm. And if they had that, they would have no bills after that, maybe a deductible. Just so that this was last year, about this time. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to try to do something next year to try to help some people out. This can't happen, and more of a charitable charitable event, not as much making money. I just wanted to help people through the process. Kind of what goes around comes around. The other kind of stat that sticks out, that kind of played in the back of my head was, there's, I think it's 30 or 40% of all divorces are because of financial stress. Which is you think of what that does to the children or people's livelihood after when they don't have 2 people paying the bills, and then on the other statistic is 3 out of every 4 bankruptcies are due to medical bills.
And so, obviously, a lot of financial stress is related to not having the proper health care coverage. And healthcare it's amazing. It's so kind of controversial, but it sounds to me like you've been able to help navigate people through the process this year.
Yeah. And I didn't know what I was going to, this was kind of an experiment, so we're like, me and my assistant, Emily, and a few others, we've tried to get the word out that we're going to help people through the enrollment process. I got set up with Healthcaregov so we could do that. I did a ton of research over the last year with all carriers to see which ones offer what and what would fit best. And we didn't know. We had no idea. And so we started with about 30 people in the last few weeks to enroll. And it's really started into a landslide. People are referring their sons and uncles. I even got a call from Florida today, which is kind of strange. But and out of it, I think we'll have about 80 plus done at the end of this week. Everyone but one person has saved money.
So even
a significant amount.
Even the snowbirds are calling you.
Yes, they are.
But give me an example, if you can, of somebody who comes in and sort of what they thought when they arrived versus what you were able to find for them.
Perfect example was a very nice lady I met off a whim. She's 61, single. She works at a local dentist's office, and her insurance was going up from $630 a month to $830. She doesn't have that money and to cover that, and she didn't need to. The healthcare exchange, which is complicated, but there's resources you can use to lower your premium payment, and it's off of projected income, not your income now, not your income previously. It's what you expect in 2018. You can plan ahead, so you can, whether you're putting money in an IRA. Charitable donations. There's a lot of stuff you can do to make your income fit where you need it to be, which to hit certain goals, to get certain subsidies. And for this young lady, I say young lady, but she lives up near Lewiston and drives all the way to Biddeford, and has a second job beside that. And so and there was other things too. Her retirement account. We put a plan together to get her to that next step. And her premium, which was going to be $800, was less than $100 when we were done.
Wow.
That's enormous. And you think of what that did for her. I mean, that's an extra $150 a week. I mean, it's just, so it was huge, and that's typical. After the first week and a half, we did 30 plus enrollments, and the average savings was almost $600. Granted, a lot of them were in their 60s and 50s, but there hasn't been a person, one person. There's been one person that we couldn't find a way to lower their premium or get them in a better position moving forward.
It wasn't me, by the way. I get health care through the legislature, which is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this issue. What I'm hearing is your expertise, not just as a health insurance agent, because that's actually not the core thing that you do, but you're adding it on, and your capabilities as a financial planner to look at a person's entire financial life is why you're being so effective.
Exactly, and that's the thing. So what I've noticed, and we're doing businesses too, because businesses can get a tax break that's enormous, which is almost equivalent to a subsidy. There's businesses that have insurance people. Most insurance people, and they're good. Most insurance people are good people, but the way they're compensated is through commission, which is a percentage of premium. And so their motivation, obviously, is to get you good coverage, but they don't look at it the same way that, for me, I want to see that money in your pocket, not in insurance premiums, And so I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and also understanding all the different tax laws and how to adjust your gross income and other aspects as well. We're looking at it a different way, and I'm looking for a different solution. And so that's I think mainly because we're looking at it that way. That's why we're having so much success.
I wanted to make sure to talk about that too, because I talk to so many people who are self-employed. Maybe they're commercial electricians or drywallers, carpenters, you name it.
Yeah.
And they have a couple of people, but they haven't. They don't think they're going to be able to offer any health insurance to their employees.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that was the other thing. If anybody is with a business right now and they're considering it, definitely talk to somebody today or within the next week or two, because until December 16th, they have an opportunity to get up to 50% of their health insurance premiums that they pay for paid back in a tax credit. And that could be the difference right there. And, so if it's outside that window, they can't do it. And so it's important to talk to someone today. And if as an example, not to saturate this with numbers and make it boring, but if someone pays $100, a business pays $100 in insurance premiums, they get $50 of that back. And then if you think about the tax write-off aspect of it, their net amount at the very end is almost a quarter of what the premium is. If that makes any sense to anybody?
No. You lost me. But anyway, all I know is...
but they save a lot of money.
And you have is that the shop plan?
Yes, exactly. That's the shop plan. So if anybody's out there with employees that get paid, especially $50,000 or less, and they want to offer that coverage, definitely look into it now. Because it could make a big difference. And it might be cheaper even if the employee pays part of it, cheaper for them to get it to the employer than it is through somewhere else. So, it's also making your employee happier, probably more productive, and, because he's job security and whatnot. So it's a good thing to look into.
I think that's the best kept secret in health insurance, those shop plans. It's a small business health options plan, I think is what it is.
Yep.
So it's really structured for small businesses that have just a few employees to get going. But tell me about your dad. He's a Vietnam vet?
Yeah, he's a Vietnam vet. He was a Marine. And
always a Marine.
Yeah, always a Marine.
Is a Marine.
Yeah, is a Marine. And he went when he was very young, and when he was in Vietnam, he unfortunately he got hepatitis C, which until recently wasn't curable. And so they've come out with a cure, and he he obviously went to the doctors to get the medication. It's 3 pills once a month. It's a tiny pill. And I remember the day he showed me, he showed this pill. He goes, "This is the most expensive thing I've ever held in my hand." It's $15,000 for that pill. And he had to take one each month. And if he didn't have a Medicare, they wouldn't have been covered. And even though with the deductible, it was still like, $2 or $3 or $4 grand. I can't remember exactly what the number was. He got, I think, a veterans group or something to cover that amount. But $15,000 a pill. You go into a restaurant, you buy something, you see the price on the menu, it makes sense. You go into get your car fixed, change your oil, you see a price, you know what you're going to pay, it makes sense. That doesn't make sense. I don't care what anybody says. That piece of whatever. So anyway, these things. That was another reason why I kind of wanted to do this, and there needs to be some change, I think, in the medical fields to fix this problem.
Yeah, the prescription drug problem is a massive one, and we've all got to sit down on the table and take that on.
Yeah.
Lord knows what incentives and costs are built onto that cost. I'm glad that your dad was able to navigate that process with the community's help and with your help.
Thankfully.
So, are you seeing who would you say? Get on the phone, call me. I think I could probably help you. What kind of people, or where are they in their lives?
Anyone.
Okay.
Anyone. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's we've seen. We started with an older demographic. Half my business is businesses. I handle the finances for businesses. The other half are older people. But I also have younger people that just graduated college and stuff as well. And there hasn't been anyone that hasn't had a financial issue that needed to be resolved. And and until we look at it, we don't know. But if anyone has any question, it doesn't even have to be directly related to the healthcare exchange, or even if if their medication's covered, or if their doctor would be covered by this insurance. It doesn't matter. If they have any question with anything health related, health insurance related, I would be more than happy to answer that for them. And I'm not doing this for fees. I'm doing this just to help people through this. It might take me a little bit since the calls have been overwhelming, but we'll definitely fit everybody in. And please, don't hesitate. And because one call could save you a fortune, literally.
And it's a recurring. Everyone has a recurring, like a car payment or something, that kind of thing. It's like those are the worst. Now, I went to Healthcaregov this morning. I spent some time on the site. I navigated around. I have to say the site is really very well done. But I think once you get to a layer or two deep, it's just confusing. You can't really.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it is. And, I can't imagine the daunting task of putting that site together. But, going through it, it's sometimes they ask the same questions over 3 or 4 times, and then some questions you kind of wonder why they're even asking them if you're not in my shoes or whatever. And then the plans look identical for the most part on the outside. I'm not looking in. And so, and that's another thing, having gone through it so many times already. I know them like the back of my hand. I know if someone is planning to have a pregnancy, which plan works best for them. If someone is a diabetic, which plan would work best for them. So, that's another thing too, is, I can kind of guide them through the process.
You got a take on Medicaid expansion in Maine?
Yeah, I think it's definitely needed, without a doubt. And I think, the enormous passing of that, the legislation, I think speaks volume. And I think if you think of the cost of these medical bills that are not being paid and are by people that aren't having insurance or any type of coverage, costs us far more than it does the government by having some type of Medicare or Medicaid. And because it's a trickle down effect. And if somebody, again, just picture it, you have these medical bills, next thing you know, you have bankruptcy, you lose a job because of the stress or car or whatever. Now it's even more of a drag on the system. And and health, your health is just one thing that you can't afford to not have. And so I think it's you can buy a car, you can go on vacation, but you can't buy your health. I mean, so I think it's
you have to
extremely
manage,
important.
plan. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right. Yeah, and we were saying, what's the cost of a broken home as
Yeah.
far as in the system? I mean, I think it's interesting. We have to. I'm very passionate about this. I want to work on this
Yeah.
issue. I think if we have to be able to find, what it costs to get this underway within the legislature, because I think it's a situation where we got to spend a dime to save a dollar in this state budget. What is the true cost of somebody who works 35 hours a week at $9 an hour? They get an offer to go full time. All of a sudden, they lose their coverage. They just say, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't do that." Where does that put us? It's odd.
I've seen that a lot, and especially when we had a restaurant. You have a lot of those positions, or younger people that are just kind of starting to make it, and they're at that weird window where, do I get this insurance, or do I stay where I'm at, where I have this coverage? Or it doesn't allow them to move on. There has to be a solution to this, and it definitely, I think putting. This is me speaking personally, but putting together some type of study to find a way to fix this issue would benefit Maine especially tremendously.
So it's really been fun in the office, seeing the people come in, and I get the sense that you're spending quite a bit of time with each person, really going through their financial and health life. I mean, what do you want people to bring in, and how should they arrive at the office?
That's another good question too. So if it's good to have as much info as possible, so especially if you're taking any prescriptions, any health concerns possible, or maybe even something that's in their family. If they have a history of heart issues, or and whoever their physician is. So if we have those, if we have that information, plus if we need your income, obviously, and other aspects of which I'll ask while we're going through it, but mainly income, prescriptions, doctors, and anything else that might affect the coverage. And then we'll make sure that it's the right coverage, and again, of course, the right cost, and their doctors are covered, so it fits, every gamut of their need.
Tell me about the person who was most surprised you were able to help them.
That's tough. There's a lot of people that have been pretty shocked, which is a really good feeling, by the way.
Yeah.
One lady didn't believe it. She thought, she didn't believe it until she got the paperwork in the mail. And it was funny. Because it took, it takes about a week. So I would joke with her. She's like, I don't believe it. I just don't. I can't. And but that was huge.
So what were you able to do? What was she paying versus what you found?
Well, that was the lady that was $800. But there is another person I know that they're going to be, because they're each paying about $1,000 a piece. Yeah. And they have a small company that they just opened, and they're it's tough when you first start a business, as you know. So they're scraping by, and I'm certain. I know that the ins and outs fairly well, and we're going to get that down to, the numbers I've already put so far are less than $100 a piece, and they don't know that yet.
So what is it about I mean, everybody's hearing on the news about the federal system, and the president's pushing back and things like that. I mean, is that affecting what you do?
Oh yeah, definitely. So you hear all this, bluster on the news where it's going to be repealed, or there's no subsidies, and do your research, because the subsidies are still there. They're actually increased, and some of in Maine, the health insurance itself has gone up, 20+%, but. If you still can use these subsidies, and it's not going to disappear tomorrow. Everything there's a process. So even, I would be shocked to learn someone would lose coverage within this year if there was some changes down the road in Washington. And I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but somebody signs up, they'll be fine for a year. So who knows what's going to happen down after that? But I know we can find at least coverage for a year, and those subsidies are going to be there, and we can find them a decent coverage.
What's the biggest challenge that you see? What's the hardest part of this business?
That's a tough one. That's a tough question because there's a lot of, well, it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So for instance, when I was getting registered with the website, which was still in development, that took 20 plus hours of my own time, going through all that and taking the courses. You have to take a number of courses. You have to be licensed correctly, and then having the every company you have to be appointed with. So with the Anthem, United Healthcare, Harvard Pilgrim, you have to get licensed with them too. So the amount of work you have to do to get up to be able to do this is probably the most difficult, because once you sit in the chair, you have all the tools then to do whatever you need to at that point. And well, getting him in the chair too, because again, you see, like you said, you hear on the news so many things. People think,
they think I might as well forget it.
Exactly. That's a big one too. Yeah. Outside of what I have to do, people don't think there's even a chance, so they don't even look for it.
Yeah.
And that's the other part, and that's a big part of it. Is now that I'm thinking about it, because you'll see it on the news at night when I get home from work, and I'm not going to bother with that. Why even waste my time when there is a chance?
Yeah.
I had a person that was in works in one of the businesses in the mill, and she walked by me. She's in her 60s, and she's like my son has. He gets a part-time job, and he can't get main care. He hasn't had insurance in 10 years. You think there's a chance for him? I'm like, yeah, there is, and we did. We got him insurance. We got him insurance for nothing, and so he just got a bronze plan. It was almost a catastrophic plan, but he has insurance, and and so. But when I first talked to her, his mother, she was already set that there was no option. It wasn't even like there was even a possibility. So it took a while to get people to break that train of thought. But so.
And what's you're doing this, you just took it on this year. Yeah. My sense is you're kind of, you're doing it for the greater good almost.
Yeah. I'm a for-profit business first and foremost, but and this is kind of a little bit separate from Boston Partners. But yeah, it's the reason why I'm doing this job is to help people out, and I don't want to. And then I have this line in my head and it's kind of tacky, but it makes sense. If somebody said to me once at a seminar, they're like, if you want to feel good for an hour, take a nap. If you want to feel good for a week, take a vacation. You want to feel good for a lifetime, help someone. And I truly feel that that's what I try to do, whether it's with the health exchange or not, is to help them through into a better position financially or in life moving forward. And we have to put our number in when we do the healthcare, and I get a very, very, very small amount. So it's definitely not worth
doing it for the money.
No, definitely not. Yeah. But what goes around comes around. And so it's and I tell you, I was thinking this yesterday and today. I haven't been this happy lately. My wife even mentioned it, and I think part of it is every day. There's 4 or 5 more people that are like either astonished or they leave with a really good feeling, and they or even less stress. And they know that they're in a better position, and that just feels good.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think the vibe is great. And you mentioned stress. There's nothing more stressful than thinking, is today the day that I'm going to get that diagnosis, or the day that I'm going to get hurt and I don't have coverage and I don't know what I'm going to do?
Right. And I think, especially when you get older, and seeing people in their 60s and 70s and the concern about, oh my God, if something happens, are we going to have enough money to live comfortably after this, if we have to pay these bills, or what are we going to do if we lose this coverage, or I think the incident, let's say if you have some type of medical concern, is secondary to the peace of mind up to it. Because whatever, if you have to deal with some health concern, say it lasts a week or two, that's 2 weeks. But having that peace of mind, for those couple years before that or after that is almost just as important, if not more, than the insurance for that one incident.
So Seth, if you could go back to 2008, when you had your successful cell phone store and your successful restaurant, I mean, what would you tell yourself?
What would I tell myself? Oh, that's a tough one. I tell.
You're in for a heck of a ride.
Yeah. Put your seatbelt on. God, I don't know. I would be speechless. Actually, I'd just be, just hold on. Then, because, it wasn't that long ago, but it seemed so far. And if I would have known, if somebody told me I'd be here today from there, or even after everything collapsed, I wouldn't have. I was thinking, you're kidding, But we all take different paths in life, and I think, and I'm blessed to have that happen, as painful as it was, it's a good thing, because in the long run, down the road, if I was, having the pizzeria and pub and the cell phone store down the road, I mean. I used to joke with people too at the restaurant. All I'm doing for people is giving them at the pizzeria and the bar was giving them diabetes and DUIs. and that's when it was a joke, but I wasn't really doing that. But and so this, I'm making a really good living, and I feel really good about it. And it wouldn't have happened if it didn't happen. 2008 or 9 happened. So. At least that's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You're helping people. That was a painful time, but you worked through it, and it's gratifying to see. In everything that we hear about health insurance, it seems to me like 90% of it is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Granted, the health insurance premiums are too high, yes, but there are ways to get your income down and find ways to make it more affordable. And you just have to think outside the box, or talk to somebody that understands the subsidies, understands your gross income, and is not just focused on, okay, I make $1,200 a week times 12. That's my number. If you have a will, there's a way.
Well, that's good. If there's a will, there's a way. So, Seth Fenn, Vice President at Boston Partners, thanks a lot for coming on the legislative. Yeah, and I think come on down to we put his contact info down there at Think Tank right next to Portland Pie. If you can't help, I'm sure you'll do your best. It sounds like most people are able to find some solution. At least you're going to learn something along the way. It's a complex area, healthcare, and you really need someone to help you navigate through it.
Even not us. Find somebody that knows the exchange, knows the tax laws, knows subsidies, because it will make a difference.
And don't forget, small businesses have a fairly unique opportunity too. So if you might have a chance to protect your employees with health insurance as well as yourself, and that's just a really nice thing to follow up on. So any closing thoughts, Seth?
Well, you mentioned that about the shop plans, the retention on that, and I can't remember the stat, but it was up. It's almost double when you offer benefits to employees.
It's good for employee retention. It's a great way to help your people out. I know as a business person myself, it's one of the things I find the most gratifying is to solve that problem for people. They're part of your family, they're part of your team. If it's a benefit that you can offer, it's a priceless thing.
It is, without a doubt.
Cool. All right, Seth. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep.